Hey guys, it's Sarah, and today I am here to do the football tag. This is a fun one because you guys know I'm a Georgia Bulldogs fanatic. They are my team, they are my boys. Both my parents went to the University of Georgia and I grew up watching their games, and it has continued into adulthood. I've got my husband on board now, he's a fan, and it's just Saturdays in the fall or Georgia football days for us and my entire family. And I saw this tag on Elliot Brooks's channel. This is actually an original tag that she created a couple of years ago, and she redid it again this year, so I thought it'd be fun to go ahead and do that. So I will link her video down below as well. There are 15 questions here, so they all have to do with football, and then we tie it into a book somehow. So here's the questions. Question number 1 is false start. Name a book that you had to start more than once. For me, that's The Book Thief. I started this, I believe, not too long after it was first published, and I had heard so much about it, and everyone was telling me, you know, oh, it's so good, it's so good. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll check it out. And I checked it out from my library, and I started it, and I DNF'd it at about 25%, I think. I think I was maybe a quarter of the way through it. And I don't know if it was just not the right time for me to read it. I couldn't get into it. I had a really hard time getting into it. It was also a genre that I wasn't very comfortable in, which is historical fiction. I am now much more comfortable in this genre. And I ended up picking this up, I think a year, maybe almost 2 years ago now, and I listened to it, so that helped me get through it a little bit better, and I ended up really liking it. I gave it 4 stars. But I actually want to reread this sometime because I think now that I'm much more comfortable in the genre, even since I've read it, I think I might enjoy it more and get more out of it, and I think I would read it physically again. Just cover to cover, read it. I think I get a lot more out of it that way. So I do want to give this one another shot again. Even though I've completed it and I know the entire story, I think I want to reread it one day physically and get more out of it that way. Question number 2 is MVP, which stands in football for most valuable player. In this one, it is most valuable pages, and it is to name a book that you value the most. And I think for mine, I'm gonna say my copy of Gone Girl, because this is a hardcover first edition of it. So, and it's one of my favorite books of all time. It's definitely the book that made me realize what kind of books I enjoy reading. And it's this type of book. Books that surprise me, books that keep me guessing, books that shock me, books that disgust me in the best way possible. Huge plot twists, like that. This is what I want. This got me into the psychological thriller genre for sure, and it is my favorite genre. So this is probably my most valued book. Question number 3 is offensive linemen. So all those guys lining up front. And this is to name a book or a series that is really big and intimidating. For me, that is the Outlander series by Diana Gabaldon. They are not intimidating to the point where I'm not reading them. I'm currently reading the series. I'm reading along the lines of the TV show. So season 4 is about to start in November. I need to read book 4, Drums of Autumn. That's actually going to be my next audiobook that I read. And I really enjoy this series. It is really, really good. But picking those books up that are this big and this big, they are huge, is very, very intimidating. And I think it would take me a really long time to get through them if I were physically reading. So that's why I do listen to them on audiobook. And I really enjoy those audiobooks. The narrator is fantastic. So a big series that I'm currently reading, but it's pretty intimidating. Question number 4 is The Rookie, and this is a debut novel that you either want to read or a debut novel that you have read and loved. And for me, that is one that I read this year, and that is Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. I cannot believe this is her first novel. It was amazing. It was really, really good. I flew through this pretty quickly. I buddy read this with Lindsay from Lindsay's Little Library, and both of us just could not put this down. It was so action-packed and interesting, and there were so many theories we had going on, so many unanswered questions that I can't wait for book number 2 to come out next year. I've already pre-ordered it, and I was just shocked that this was her first book because it is so well written. It is written like she's been writing for decades, and she knows how to do it. So it was amazing. Question number 5 is Peyton Manning, who is a very famous quarterback. I'm sure everybody knows who he is. And he actually won 2 different Super Bowls with 2 different teams in his career. So that's a pretty big accomplishment. Not many people can say that. The question here is to name an author who has written either multiple books or multiple series that are pretty successful and that you enjoyed. And for me, that's Gillian Flynn. So she has not written a ton. She's not super prolific as an author, but I have read Gone Girl. It's one of my favorites of all time. It's in my top 10. I have read Sharp Objects, which is also really fantastic. I'd actually like to reread this after the show is done or after I finish the show. I think the show is done, but I have not finished it yet. So I think I want to go back and reread this one. And compare the show to the book after it's kind of fresh in my mind. But I did read this and really enjoyed it. I have read The Grown Up and really enjoyed this as well. This is a short story. And then there's Dark Places, which I have not read yet. This is the only Gillian Flynn published that I have not read. So I need to rectify that for sure. But everything else by hers I have read and loved, and I think she is just a brilliant author. She knows how to twist your heart. She knows how to twist your mind. She knows how to shock you, and she doesn't apologize for it. I love what goes on in her head. And yeah, so definitely Gillian Flynn for me. Question number 6 is Lambeau Field, which I believe is where the Green Bay Packers play, and it's supposed to be like one of the most atmospheric stadiums in the country. And so you're supposed to name a book that was very atmospheric. And for me, that is Caraval by Stephanie Garber. This book has the best descriptions of a magical carnival that I have ever read, and everything, I could picture everything so clearly in my head, and it was just, to me, it was so beautiful the way it was written that I could actually, you know, I could see a dress changing in front of my eyes because of how it was described in the book. And it was very Alice in Wonderland-esque for me. That's kind of the feeling I got from it as a lot of these things were being described. So this one definitely atmospheric for me. Question number 7 is Hail Mary. Do we have to talk about Hail Marys? We were cursed with a Hail Mary in the national championship last year when Alabama threw one in the last seconds of the game in double overtime, and they caught it, and it was awful. It was the worst thing ever. It's fine. Okay. A Hail Mary is when a team is down to the last seconds of the game and they literally throw the ball from wherever they are on the field into the end zone, hoping that a touchdown is made so that they can score and win. Yep, sometimes it works. It's fine. I'm not bitter at all. So for this one, you're supposed to pick a book with a great ending. Okay. This is not going to be a popular opinion on this one because not everyone is going to agree with me that this had a great ending. Personally, I loved it. I thought it was brilliant. I did not see it coming. I was shocked. I still think about this ending, and I read this book I believe it was last year sometime, like 2017. Behind Our Eyes by Sarah Pinborough. Yep, I loved the ending of this. And I don't understand how people have read it and predicted what was gonna happen because I did not see it coming at all. It took so many twists and turns, it kept me confused, and I just had no idea what was going on. And then when things started unfolding, I was shocked and just like, what? And it didn't make any sense, and I loved it, and I thought it was great. So this is definitely, for me, a great ending. Question number 8 is The Raiders. So you're supposed to name a book series or a fandom that has very intense fans, because Oakland Raider fans be crazy. For me, this is Game of Thrones. Oh my goodness. And it is, if I meet somebody or somebody says they're a big fan of Game of Thrones, I'm like, oh, here we go. And yep, it is just, they are intense. They are very passionate about it. It makes me want to get into it as well. I have not read the books. I have not seen the show. You can say winter is coming and I'll know what you're talking about, but I don't really know what that means. And yeah, so I do plan to rectify that because the series is on the Great American Reads list. So I do plan to at least read the first book at some point in my life. I don't know when that's going to happen, but at some point I will. And I do want to watch the show as well. I'm trying to decide if I should watch the show first though. Maybe it'll make the book a little bit easier for me because I'll have more of a visual of who the characters are and things like that. So give me suggestions down below if that's okay. Because I know that the series takes a little bit of a different take on it because, you know, they're finishing the show and the books are not finished yet still. So they had to take some liberties for sure. So I did hear that it's not, you know, by the book exactly. But let me know if you think it'd be a good idea if I start watching the show first before I read the first novel, or how far into the show I should watch and then read the first novel, because I'm thinking that might be easier for me to really comprehend everything. Question number 9 is the Walter Payton Man of the Year Award. And this is an award that is given to an NFL player every year, and it is somebody who has been very charitable and given back to their community a lot, or kind of in the most ways compatible. And compatible is not a word. And for this one, you're supposed to name a very charitable author. And I had to do some research on this because I don't really know off the top of my head at all, like who's charitable and who's not. But upon doing some research, I did read a few articles on Dean Koontz and his wife, and they are very charitable with their money. And a lot of their money that they give goes towards organizations that help animals and animals that are trained to be companions for people with PTSD or who have some sort of disability, you know, sightseeing dogs and all that. And they give a lot of money to those types of organizations, which I love. And they also give money to organizations that help children with illnesses and disabilities and all that. So they are very charitable with their money. Question number 10 is the Patriots. And this is the best question because it's so true. Name a book or series that you are so tired of hearing about. For real. For this one, I would change mine to Alabama because I am so tired of Alabama winning everything and everybody talking so highly of Alabama and blah, 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 blah. Oh, ugh. Just stop it. I know I have Alabama subscribers who are fans, so sorry, but not sorry. All right, so for the book series I'm going to talk about here, this is To All the Boys I've Loved Before. I'm so tired of hearing about that series, and it's because the movie just came out on Netflix and I don't care, and I have not read the books. I don't want to read the books. I've never been interested in the books. I don't think it's something that I would actually enjoy. I think it would just be a fluffy read that's just fine, and it's just not really something in my wheelhouse. And everybody and their mother is talking about it and talking about the movie, and people are watching the movie 5 times. I'm like, why? Ugh, yeah. Not interested. Question number 11 is Brett Favre, and he is an NFL quarterback who played for the Green Bay Packers for a very long time, and then he retired, and then he unretired, and then he played for the Minnesota Vikings for a little bit, and that was kind of weird, and then he retired again. So you are supposed to name a book or a series that you thought was over, but then more things were written and the series continued and you weren't expecting it and it kind of came out of nowhere. So for me, that is the Jack Daniels series by J.A. Conrath. Now, this is a detective series, and I read this, oh gosh, we were living in San Antonio. I remember that, and I just binge read so many of these books just right in a row, and I could not get enough of them. They're pretty short, as you can see, but each book is named after a drink. And the main character in here is named Jack Daniels. It's actually a woman. Her name is Jacqueline, and Jacqueline Daniels is her name. And she is a detective who hunts serial killers. And she finds herself, obviously, you know, in the middle of all these investigations and becomes target a lot of the time and all that. So she deals with that. And these are very gruesome. They're very graphic, violently. I loved it. And yeah, so very good. There's also a lot of humor in here too. J.A. Conrath has a great sense of humor, and I really like his books, and I really like him as a person as well. He's really funny. So, but this was, I believe, 6 or 7 books originally, and then 10 years after this one, or 10 years later, I think after the last one was written, he was like, oh, another Jack Daniels book. I was like, oh, what? And he's still writing them now. So that is a series that I actually want to reread these books and then continue on, because if I picked up the next one that he most recently, you know, made the comeback for, I don't think I would it's been too long. So I'd probably, you know, forget half of what happened and all that. So definitely a series I want to reread. And like I said, they're really short, so you can get through them really quickly. And yeah, so this one made a comeback. Question number 12 is The Cowboys. And name a book or series that people either love or hate. I'm gonna name an author, and I'm gonna say Colleen Hoover. And Colleen is, you either love her or you hate her. There's really no middle road. The only person I've seen middle of the road is Books and Lala. She's very up and down for the individual book as far as what she thinks. She's given some of her books 1 star. She's given some of her books 5 stars. So she's probably more middle of the road than anybody I've seen. But a lot of people hate Colleen because, you know, they say that her stuff is problematic and all that. It is, but that's why it's good. That's why it's entertaining. That's why, you know, and it's fiction, so it doesn't bother me. But I love Colleen Hoover. I have loved every single book I've read from her. I have given every single one 5 stars, and I just, yeah, I love her. She's one of my favorites. Question 13 is Trick Plays. Name a book that has a great plot twist. The ultimate plot twist. This is probably the first book that I read that had such a big plot twist that I can remember. I don't remember reading anything before this that just shocked me the way that this one did. And again, it just changed what I wanted to read, and it changed the way that I read. And yeah, so ultimate plot twist, I loved it. Question number 14 is The Cheerleaders. Name a book that has a flashy cover. Strange is the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. Look how flashy, literally. It's literally flashy and shiny and pretty to look at, and yay. Yeah, I have not read this yet. I'm planning to read it in November. I have somebody who's going to read it with me and help me through it because this one makes me very nervous. I'm very intimidated by this book, but I am going to read it in November, and I have a buddy read lined up, so I'm excited for it. But very flashy, one of my favorite covers of all time. Question number 15 is Roughing the Passer, which is when a quarterback gets tackled after he has already passed the ball or being too rough on the quarterback. And the prompt for this one is name a book that you would love to throw at an author. All right, so this one is my most hated book. I hated it. And I tried so hard to like it. I tried so hard because everybody else on the planet loved it. And I really felt like I was the only one who hated this book. And that's Eat, Pray, Love by Elizabeth Gilbert. I hated that book. I hated it. I thought she was whiny. I thought she was playing such a victim, and everything is just happening to her and nothing is her fault and blah, blah, blah. And I'm gonna go discover myself and blah, blah, blah. And I'm gonna make all these rules for myself and I'm gonna break them. And then I actually also read an article not too long after that, you know, when you're reading this, you're thinking, oh, she's really going on this trip to discover herself and blah, blah, blah. No, she got a book in advance to take that trip. So it was kind of it seemed a little sketchy to me. It seemed like it wasn't very genuine, that she didn't really need to go find herself. They paid her to go take a trip and write about it. And no, it left a really bad taste in my mouth. I don't really know if that was the intention or not, but I did read an article that she got in advance to take the trip and that's how she was able to pay for it. So I didn't really like that very much. But yeah, nope, hated it. With a fiery passion. All right, guys, so that is the football book tag. That was a ton of fun, and I'm a big football person. College, I don't watch NFL, I watch college, but I really, really enjoy it. So I'm going to tag my friend Lindsay from Lindsay's Little Library because I know that she is a huge Green Bay Packers fan. So I want her to do this one too. I think that would be fun to see. And Lindsay, you got to wear your Packers shirt in your video. So, all right, that's going to be it for me today. I hope you guys have a great day, and I will talk to you guys again soon. Bye.